Alright, so we got the 219 spoilers, and this chapter is super exciting because we're actually going back to the Heian era. That's right, the golden age of Jujutsu from 1,000 years ago, and we're seeing Sukuna during that time and what he was doing. Super fascinating stuff. Sukuna is also doing something that we've been waiting for him to do for like the last 2 months in this chapter. But before we get into the spoilers, let me just quickly go over what had happened in the previous chapter. So we saw Sukuna continue to fight against Yorozu in her big, insect armor mode, where he eventually defeated her by dropping the max elephant on her. And at the end of the chapter, we saw them kind of having like their final stare down, where seemingly Yorozu was going to use her ultimate technique, where she says, I'll construct and show you my heart. And that brings us to the beginning of this chapter that starts with a Heian era flashback to a festival day where Sukuna was invited. They talk about praying to Sukuna for a bountiful harvest. It's to not gain any hostility from Sukuna. They also gossip about a hick known for similar barbarity, Yorozu. So yeah, like I said, we are seeing the Heian era flashback, and we already saw Yorozu in the previous chapter. She pretty much looks the same as she does now, except she doesn't really wear any clothes. Also, let me point that out, that this is the most fan service heavy chapter in the entire series. Like, Yorozu is not wearing clothes a lot, surprisingly for Gege. I mean, this will probably be altered somewhat once it gets to the volume, I guess, but yeah, Gege really not caring too much about being PG, I guess you could say, in this chapter. But like I said, we're also seeing Sukuna, and he's awesome looking. I mean, we already knew what he looked like originally, but we're seeing it more so in relation to other people, because like he's huge. Like, he's, I don't know, 1.5 times the size of a normal person, maybe 2 times the size of a person. He's not like a giant, but he's noticeably larger than the 2 people that are with him in this chapter. And I guess that could go back to the theory of him being comprised of like 2 people, like Sukuna and his brother or whatever. Check out my collab that I did with No Operator, The Fake Weeb, and Mir, where we talk about this theory. But also them saying about praying to Sukuna for a bountiful harvest and not to gain any hostility from him. They're obviously like treating him like a god, and we didn't really know about this before. We didn't know exactly what was going on with Sukuna back in the Heian era. I mean, we know that he was regarded as like the king of curses and like the strongest and whatever, but we didn't know that like people were straight up like worshiping him here. I mean, not like sorcerers. It seems like regular people. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Wonder. Wonder is an app that turns words into mesmerizing digital artworks. All you need to do is enter a prompt, pick an art style, and watch Wonder bring your idea to life in seconds. Guys, I love this app. It is so much fun. Like, if you've ever needed any kind of art for any reason, Wonder has got you covered, because it could pretty much literally make anything. Like, I was having some fun with Wonder earlier, and I asked it to make me a battle anime of Elon Musk versus Joe Biden in the art style of My Hero Academia, and it knocked it out of the park. I mean, look how good this is. So guys, check out the link in the description to download Wonder and get a free trial of the premium version to put your creativity to test, because the premium version includes 20 plus styles. It's faster, you have unlimited art, and there's no ads. And again, you can find the link to download Wonder in the description of this video, and you'll also get your free trial of premium there as well. Thanks, guys. But anyway, we go back to like Yorozu and her house or wherever she stays, and a servant asks Yorozu to wear clothes, at least casual ones, for the festival. And she just puts on a robe and proceeds to have some snacks at the festival, which are actually meant for worship. And that's where she sees the King of Curses. Yorozu falls in love at first sight with Sukuna. She rushes and wraps around Sukuna and consoles him, saying, "Don't worry, I'm with you." But Urarame attacks. Yorozu falls back and spouts some nonsense, but doesn't notice that she was already slashed. And that's how Heian era's Yorozu ceased to exist. Back to the present, Yorozu says that the loneliness she saw in Sukuna belongs only to her, and she'll be able to kill him, and proceeds to make a giant ball called the True Sphere. So that's it? That was like Sukuna and Yorozu's entire interaction, just that one moment? It for sure made it seem like they had like a history, but judging from this, it seems like they only met for like less than 5 minutes, and Urarame just kills her, or Sukuna does? I don't know. I guess Urarame is doing cleave or dismantle. It looks like she's doing that ability. Like originally it was assumed that Urarame's curse technique or innate ability was like ice manipulation or whatever, but she's not doing that here. It looks like she's hitting Yorozu with like cleave and dismantle. So I guess that could go back to the theory of Sukuna having multiple curse techniques, and maybe not even he can just have them. I mean, we know that Kenjaku also has multiple techniques as well, but I guess Urarame does too. So this is like a shared concept among them, I suppose. Now, also the fact that Yorozu is dying here means that she was made into a cursed object shortly after or sometime after. And also it's like, why at this point, since she doesn't even really seem that significant other than just being ultra powerful? But I mean, I guess she was used for the purpose of Sumiki and the whole Megumi stuff, which just seems a little too elaborate, especially since we're not getting any insight into anybody talking about this plan, but I'm sure we will eventually. But anyway, back to this giant ball thing that Yorozu is forming in the current time called the True Sphere. I guess this is the ultimate ability for construction technique, because a true sphere is said to be impossible to implement. It can create infinite pressure since it doesn't have a contact area. It's a sphere that one can't touch. Yorozu then activates her domain expansion. Yorozu's domain expansion is so idiotic. It says meaning triple sickness, and she would say it out loud like sick, sick, sick. But Sukuna doesn't activate his domain in response. Yorozu is worried and thinks, why aren't you using your domain expansion? Mine has a must-hit effect on that sphere. If I activate my curse technique, you will disappear. And then she doesn't notice that Mahoraga's wheels are spinning. Now, before we go any further, let me just try to explain what Yorozu's domain expansion is here. It seems similar to the others that we've seen, except, I don't know, there's like these floating mushroom uterus things around Sukuna, and she also has the True Sphere, which I'm not even going to try to break down in these spoilers. I'll much rather wait for the Viz translation before I get into that stuff, but I think it's implemented into her domain's guaranteed hit here. So if you get touched by the sphere, you're pretty much done. I guess it's kind of similar to what Tsukuma was doing with her ultimate ability, maybe. I know it's not gravity based, but I don't know. We'll get into it on Sunday. But anyway, with this treasure, I summon Mahoraga. Sukuna grabs the wheel and throws it in the shadow, which summons the full Mahoraga outside of Yorozu's domain expansion. It then pierces open the True Sphere. Yorozu finds it impossible that Mahoraga destroyed the True Sphere, and Sukuna pops up later and says a sorcerer with a bad output efficiency like you will use the curse technique in a unified way, but whatever you constructed was already adapted. So yeah, I'll go into that on Sunday too. I don't really feel like breaking that down here because we don't have, the entire dialogue, but Sukuna finally summons Mahoraga here, and he's just like normal Mahoraga. He's not like a giant. At least from what I see, I don't think he's like a giant form of him. But also really interesting that like Sukuna had the wheel already summoned, the Dharma Chakra that we talked about in the review on Sunday, but it never summoned Mahoraga completely until now. We thought, or at least I speculated, it had something to do with Sukuna trying to use it for his resurrection, which I think will still happen here. But he does a really cool thing where it looks like Sukuna is dropping Mahoraga's Dharma Chakra into the 10 Shadows itself. That's like emanating from Sukuna, like when he summoned the Divine Dogs. And I guess he's opening a portal to the outside of the domain expansion, and that's where Mahoraga is being summoned, and then he just stabs his sword into the sphere or into the domain itself. It's hard to make out because I can't see all the panels here, but either way, Mahoraga's sword, which is imbued in positive cursed energy, is just destroying her domain, or at least it's just opening up the True Sphere, which apparently cannot be touched. But since Mahoraga is using positive cursed energy, it shuts down anything that has like negative cursed energy, which is like the majority of all curse techniques and jujitsu. So Mahoraga is actually a perfect counter to domains. Like the 10 Shadows really does have it all. It's just that we were never able to see its true like utility toolbox potential until Sukuna used it. It also makes sense going back to what Gojo told Megumi as to where like essentially the 10 Shadows user is on par with the Limitless user, but not necessarily the 6 Eyes maybe. Despite all that, Yorozu says that she's happy that Sukuna knew all about her, and Sukuna is dumbfounded, LMAO. And on the verge of death, Yorozu tells to Sukuna, "This is for you. Think that this is me and use it with care for the rest of your life. Now, I can't see what Yorozu is handing to Sukuna here. I think it has something to do with her construction curse technique. I think she's doing something similar to what Mai did with Maki, like giving Sukuna one final curse tool possibly before she dies, which is interesting, and it makes sense because, you know, Sukuna is like her idol rock star guy. Even though he never really reciprocated the love, she's still grateful, I guess, that he took her down, even if he didn't use his malevolent shrine to do it. Obviously, Yorozu is like a crazy person, but this is her showing her one moment of true unrequited love, and the final, I suppose. But now we're coming to the end of the chapter, and deep in the darkness, a light finally bursts, in which finally shows a boy who had sunk to the bottom of the abyss. Megumi Fujigoro kills his sister, Sumiki, with his own hands. The soul goes deep into the abyss. So yeah, that's pretty depressing. And we talked about this before, that there's a possibility that Megumi might just die. Like, I don't want to say that Nobara is completely dead, because there is that small chance that she still is alive. Gege doesn't really care about killing off his characters. You know, which is kind of refreshing for these mangakas, because some of them are so afraid to kill off literally anyone. But if Megumi does die here, and I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but it could be that Gege was setting up that the true big three of this series was not Nobara, Megumi, and Yuji, but it was Yuji, Okotu, and Maki. And I'd like to make another video about that once we go on break in 2 weeks. But I just want to put that out there, that it's possible that Megumi and Nobara were always supposed to die. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but we'll see it happens. But that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about these spoilers in the comments. And also, please don't forget to check out the sponsor of this video, Wonder. Again, you can download Wonder by checking the link in the description. You're also going to be able to get your free premium trial there. Thanks, guys.